Being lazy is not your problem. Being ambitious and lazy at the same time, that's the real trap nobody talks about. Because here's what actually happens. You have big dreams. You think about them every single day. You know exactly what you want your life to look like. But then, you don't do anything. You sit there, you scroll, you tell yourself you'll start tomorrow or Monday or next month. And the worst part? You're not stupid. You know you're wasting time. You can feel it. But somehow, knowing that doesn't make you move. That's the exact situation I want to talk about today. Because if that sounds like you, you're not broken. You're not lazy in the way people think. There's something else going on. And once you understand it, everything starts to make sense. So, let's get into it. First, I need to tell you something that might actually make you feel better before it challenges you. Ambition and laziness are not opposites. A lot of people assume that if you're lazy, you can't really be ambitious, like one cancels out the other. But that's not true. Some of the most driven people in the world spend years sitting still, doing nothing with the very goals they care about most. Why? Because ambition without a clear path creates a very specific kind of paralysis. You want to succeed so badly that starting feels dangerous. What if you try and it doesn't work? What if you put everything into this and you fail? The dream is safe as long as it's just a dream. The moment you actually try, it becomes real, and real things can fall apart. So, your brain, trying to protect you, convinces you to wait, to prepare more, to research more, to be ready. And that waiting looks a lot like laziness from the outside, but it's not laziness, it's fear dressed up in comfortable clothes. Now, that doesn't let you completely off the hook, because at some point you still have to move. But it does mean the solution isn't to just try harder or be more disciplined. Those advice are given to everyone, and they don't work for people like you. People who already care too much. People who are so aware of what they want that the weight of it stops them. What actually works is different. Let me explain what's really happening inside your head when you're in this stuck place. Your brain has two modes when it comes to goals. There's the mode where you think about the goal, the big picture, the end result, what your life will look like when you make it. And then there's the mode where you think about the process, the actual steps, the daily work, the boring stuff. When you're ambitious, you spend a lot of time in the first mode. You're a big picture person. You can see the destination clearly. But the process, the daily grind, that feels disconnected from the dream. It feels small. It feels repetitive. And because it feels small compared to your vision, your brain doesn't want to do it. Why spend an hour writing one blog post when you want to be running an entire media company? Why go for a 20-minute run today when you want to be in the best shape of your life? The gap between where you are and where you want to be is so big that every small action feels almost pointless. This is what I call the ambition gap, and it's why so many smart, driven people do absolutely nothing for months, sometimes years. So, how do you close that gap? Step 1, and this is the most important thing I'm going to say today, you have to stop thinking about your goal all the time and start thinking about your system. I know that sounds backwards. You're probably thinking, but isn't focusing on the goal what keeps me motivated? The answer is no. And this is where most motivation content gets it completely wrong. Goals tell you where you want to go. Systems determine whether you actually get there. Here's a simple example. Say your goal is to get fit. Every morning you wake up and you think, I want to get fit, I need to get fit, I'm going to get fit. But you have no system, no workout time set, no gym routine, no meal structure, just the goal. And the goal alone does nothing. You just feel guilty every day for not moving toward it. Now change the approach. Same goal, but this time you set a system. Every day at 7 a.m. for 30 minutes, you move your body. Doesn't matter what. Walk, lift, stretch, just 30 minutes. That's the system. Now the goal becomes almost automatic because the system is doing the work for you. The lazy, ambitious person doesn't need more motivation. They need fewer decisions.
Every time you have to decide whether to work on your goal today, you give your brain a chance to say no. And your brain, especially when it's tired or stressed, will almost always say no. So the trick is to remove the decision, make the action a default, something that just happens at a certain time, in a certain way, without you having to think about it. This is why the most productive people you look up to don't rely on feeling motivated. They built structures that make not working feel weird. The action becomes automatic, like brushing your teeth. You don't negotiate with yourself about whether to brush your teeth today, you just do it. That's what a good system feels like.
Step 2. Shrink the target. One of the biggest reasons ambitious people don't start is because they set the bar impossibly high right from the beginning. They want to write a book, so they try to write a chapter a day. They want to build a business, so they try to spend 4 hours a day on it from the start. They want to learn a skill, so they try to practice for 2 hours every single day. And then they fail to keep up with that pace for more than a week. And then they feel like they're not cut out for it. And then they stop. But the problem wasn't them. The problem was the bar they set. If you haven't been working on something consistently, starting with an hour a day is too much. Start with 10 minutes. Seriously, 10 minutes of real, focused work every day is infinitely more valuable than 3 hours once a week, because those 10 minutes build a habit, and that habit, over time, becomes your identity. And identity-level changes are the only changes that actually stick. When you do something small enough that you can't say no, you start showing up. And when you start showing up, you start building momentum. And momentum is the thing that turns lazy, ambitious people into actually doing it people. Step 3, understand why procrastination feels so good so you can stop falling for it. When you scroll your phone instead of working, your brain gets a hit of something. Not pleasure exactly, but relief. Relief from the pressure of the goal. Relief from the weight of your own expectations. It's an escape. And escapes feel amazing in the short term. But here's what nobody talks about. Every time you escape, the goal gets heavier, the guilt gets bigger, the gap between where you are and where you want to be gets wider. And the wider that gap gets, the harder it is to face the work. So you escape again and again, until months have gone by and you haven't moved at all. This is the procrastination cycle, and the only way to break it is to understand that the discomfort of starting is always smaller than the discomfort of not starting. Always. The few minutes of friction when you sit down to work feel bad, but they feel way less bad than lying in bed at 2 a.m. thinking about everything you haven't done. Once you genuinely internalize that, not just hear it, but feel it, your relationship with starting will change. You start to almost look forward to doing the work, not because it's fun, but because not doing it feels worse. Step 4, fix your environment before you fix your mindset. Most people try to solve laziness by changing how they think. They journal, they repeat affirmations, they try to get inspired. And sometimes that works, but it's the hardest way, because thoughts are hard to control. But your environment? That's something you can actually change today. If your phone is on your desk while you work, you will pick it up, not because you're weak, but because it's there. If junk food is in your house, you will eat it eventually, not because you have no self-control, but because proximity always wins in the long run. So if you want to work on your goals, design your space to make that easy and make everything else hard. Put your laptop where you can see it. Keep your phone in another room during work sessions. Turn off your notifications. Set up a workspace, even if it's just a corner of your room, that your brain starts to associate with getting things done. These are not small changes. These are the kinds of changes that actually move the needle because they work with your brain instead of against it. Step 5, be honest with yourself about the real cost of staying stuck. Here's a question I want you to sit with. Not answer right now, but actually think about it. If you keep going exactly the way you've been going, same habits, same patterns, same daily choices, where will you be in 5 years? Not where you hope to be, not where you want to be. Where will you actually be, based on what you're actually doing? For a lot of ambitious people, this question is terrifying, because the honest answer is not much further than where you are now. And that's not me being harsh, that's just math. Small daily choices repeated over years build real outcomes. The person you'll be in 5 years is being built by what you do today and tomorrow and the day after that. And I think somewhere deep down you already know this. That's why it keeps you up at night. That's why you feel that low-level anxiety even when you're relaxing, because part of you knows that the time is passing whether you use it or not. The ambitious, lazy version of you is not who you are. It's who you are right now in this season, with these habits in this environment. All of that can change, but it only changes when you decide not to be perfect, not to completely reinvent yourself overnight, but to start doing something small, consistently, starting today. Not tomorrow, today. You don't need to feel ready. Readiness is a myth that lazy, ambitious people tell themselves to feel okay about waiting. Nobody starts anything feeling fully ready. The people who succeed are just the ones who started before they were ready and figured it out on the way. So here's what I want you to do after watching this. Pick one goal, the most important one, the one that actually keeps you up at night, and then decide on one small action, something that takes 10 minutes or less that you will do today, not as a grand gesture, but as a first step. Write it down, tell someone about it, make it real. That's it. One thing today. Because the gap between who you are and who you want to be is not closed with one big leap. It's closed with 10,000 small steps, and every single one of them starts with the same moment, the moment you decide to stop thinking about it and just go. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's coming next.